Hi, I'm Ellen from the Chili Dog. Today I am knitting a Ready Set Go sock using the short row heel shaping option, and I'd like to show you how wrap and turns are created and used. Generally, whenever you're working short rows in knitting, whether it's for a sock heel or as a shaping in a garment, each short row is going to end with some sort of special turning stitch. The turning stitch helps minimize the height difference in the rows and prevent any unwanted gaps or holes when you transition from working short rows to longer full rows. There are a variety of ways to create turning stitches, but one very common method is the wrap and turn. First, I'll show you how to create a wrap and turn, both on the right side and wrong side of a fabric worked in basic stockinette stitch. Then I'll demonstrate how to treat those wrapped stitches as you begin to make your short rows longer. Let's get started. Wrap and turn is an abbreviated way to describe what actually happens when you make this sort of turning stitch. The process is just a little bit more involved. To make a wrap and turn on the knit side, your yarn is naturally going to be at the back after completing the previous stitch. Slip a stitch purlwise. Then you want to wrap the yarn around that stitch, so bring the yarn around the side of the stitch. Return the stitch to your left hand needle without twisting it. And then I like to complete the wrap by bringing it all the way around back to its original position, and that sets me up so that I am ready to start the next row. Once the stitch has been wrapped, it's time to turn things over, and then you're ready to work the next short row. To make a wrap and turn on the purl side, your yarn is going to be at the front after completing the previous stitch. Slip one stitch purlwise, wrap the stitch by bringing your yarn around the side of it. Return the stitch to the left hand needle by slipping it without twisting. And just like before, I like to complete this wrap and bring the yarn all the way around back to its original position so that I'm ready to work my next stitch. Once the wrap is complete, you can turn things over. Now, one thing to be aware of with wrap and turns is that it's going to be much easier to see the wraps on the knit side of the fabric, both here and here. If you look at the purl side, even though the wrap goes all the way around the stitch, that wrap can blend into the purl bars, making it a little bit harder to identify. When your short rows start getting longer, you need to work the wraps together with the stitches that they are wrapped around. Again, this helps minimize the height difference of the rows so you can avoid any sort of odd gaps or holes at this transition. On the knit side, there are a couple different ways to manipulate the stitches, but both are going to produce the same final results. First, you could approach it as if it were a SSK, or slip-slip knit. So you bring your right hand needle up through the wrap. That's sort of like slipping a stitch knitwise. Then you're going to slip the wrapped stitch knitwise, dropping it off the left needle, and then knit both of those together through the back loops. The second option requires less needle motion, but you're going to need to maintain enough tension on your yarn to be able to get it to pass through the stitches as you're working them together. Just like before, you bring the right hand needle up through the wrap, then you go through the wrapped stitch knitwise without slipping it off your needle, and you're going to knit those two together. And this is where it can be tricky if you don't have enough tension, because you have to bring that yarn back through both and then drop the stitch off your needle. On the purl side, working the wrap and wrap stitch together is a little bit easier to manipulate. First, you need to pick up the wrap, and if you know what you're looking for here, it's this wrap that's at the base of the stitch, and you bring the right hand needle up through the back leg of that wrap. If you are unable to see that and identify that, and you're a little bit newer to wrap and turns, that's okay. Then what you'll want to do is just flip things over, because remember that wrap is a lot easier to identify on the knit side of things. So you can see it right there. So again, just bring your right hand needle up through the wrap on the right side, and then lift your wrap up onto the left hand needle without twisting it, and purl the lifted wrap and the stitch together. I hope you enjoyed learning how to wrap and turn. If you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. If you'd like to try this technique in a pattern, head over to the shop section of thechillydog.com and look for my Ready, Set, Go socks. Until we stitch again, happy knitting!